East Hampton Town Board. We are live.
Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. Michael, if you could please read the roll call.
Councilmember Flight.
Present.
Deputy Supervisor Lease.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Calder-Piedmont.
Present.
Supervisor Burke-Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Folks, before you sit down, we have a special treat today. Chelsea Winslow is going to lead us in the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner. Chelsea, do you want to come to the podium?
All right.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Chelsea, that was extraordinary. Thank you. There's a lot of talent here in town government. Okay, so we have a packed agenda, and I'm so grateful for everyone to be here. We've dedicated this work session to the bicentennial, semi-quincentennial. It took me a while to learn semi-quincentennial, 250th anniversary of our country. But before we start, we'll start with public portion. We ask folks to kindly keep their comments to 3 minutes, and then we will get into our topics. So Michael, has anyone signed up to speak? Is there anyone here that would like to speak during public portion on any topic? No? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we have one person on the line. Let me go merge over.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Caller ending 4010. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear,
Yes.
You're on.
Okay, great. Hi, members of the board and Madam Supervisor. This is Biddle Duke in Springs. Ian said I could offer a comment in any work session about the proposed parking area behind the Springs Library. I hope that's okay. I just had some very quick thoughts. I have concerns. Anytime that we put anything in preserved land, we should be very, very careful and very thoughtful, and I know you all are. I've looked over the proposal, 35 spaces and 3 ADA spaces. It's a gravel lot. I do thank the library and the Springs CAC for dealing with a problem. I recognize that there is a parking issue in that triangle. However, can we start smaller? Can we begin with something half the size of 35 or 20 spaces? If we're going to do something, can we just start smaller? And if the need is it's overwhelmed, maybe we can add later. That's one suggestion. I mean, I will say that, and this may actually get a tremendous amount of pushback from some people, but part of the charm of Springs is on Saturday mornings and at other times when there are events there, is that there are cars parked all over the place and people need to slow down and take it all in. And I mean, that's kind of small townish. It's so beautiful. That said, I do recognize that a parking area is probably needed and is a good idea. But it is a preserve. It's actually, there's a trail that goes through there that connects the library to the Montauk Market and School Street. So anyway, I have concerns. I think I've heard others have concerns about the size of it, and as you look at this, recognize that there are folks here in Springs who want to just start as modestly as possible, if possible. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Biddle.
Biddle, we've emailed, exchanged about this a little bit, but I'll follow up with you after the meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.
Jason, is there anyone else on the line?
We have no other callers on the line.
Okay, I'm going to ask in the room one more time. Is there anyone that wants to address the board during public comment? All right, so we're going to move on to our topics. First up is bids with Jeannie Carrozza. Welcome, Jeannie. Just everybody knows at home what we're laughing about. Hugh King asked if these were historic bids today.
Okay, the first bid up for acceptance is the Georgia Capon, New York 27 Rest Stop Stormwater Abatement. Delalio Colin Stone, DBA South Fork Asphalt, is the apparent low bidder in the amount of $1,043,475. The next bid is for the printing of miscellaneous forms. Ridgewood Press and Courier Printing are the apparent low bidders for that. Next is the extension of our auto parts bids. Advanced Stores, Grade A Petroleum, Fleet Pride, and Morgan Auto have all agreed to extend. We're going to reject the roll-off containers for sanitation and the personal watercraft for the Marine Patrol. We'll be rebidding both of those for this Thursday again. And other notices available are the bucket truck for street lighting, the delivery of food items for human services, as well as the supply and delivery of food service and kitchenware. And that's it.
Great. Does anyone have questions for Jeannie?
No. Okay,
Thank you, Jeannie. All right, so you know what that means. Hugh, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I don't think I've ever been in a meeting where there were so many historians in one place, so I hope we can get a picture.
We're
before we
hoping to
leave.
do that, so everybody should stay after the meeting. So
And then we'll sign it and you can sell it. Yeah, okay. And you know, the national anthem didn't become the national anthem until 1931, you know. Okay. What did the Mulford House on James Lane have to do with the American Revolution? What part did Thomas Wickham play in East Hampton during the American Revolution? Why was Reverend Samuel Buell accused of being both a Tory and a patriot? What was the connection between Clinton Academy and the Revolution? Why was the building of Long Wharf important during the American Revolution? Why is a drink called the Ruse served at the Crow's Nest in Montauk? What men from Amagansett served during the American Revolution? Why was Montauk a target for the British during the American Revolution? What part did Gardiner's Island play in the Revolution? What were the Articles of Association? What part did the Gardner-Brown House play during the Revolution? Why was the HMS Culloden in Montauk during the Revolution? What happened to it? What part did Samson Occam play in the Revolution? Name 3 men from Wainscott who served in the American Revolution. Name 5 men from Springs who served during the American Revolution. Who was living at the Mulford Farm during the American Revolution? Who was living at Home Sweet Home, Second House, Miss Amelia's Cottage? Who was living on Gardiner's Island? Where were the Montaukets during the American Revolution? Where did people of color live during the American Revolution? Who was living at the White House during the Oh, I know that one. It wasn't built yet. Okay, so all these questions are going to be answered by the people who are following me today. Okay, so I'm yielding my time to whoever you want to call up.
Thank you, Hugh.
Yes.
So there's something very special about being asked to look again at the place you call home, to slow down and notice the markers we pass, the roads we travel, the buildings we recognize, and the places that have been part of East Hampton for longer than any of us have been here. As we prepare for the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, communities across the country are reflecting on America's story. And here in East Hampton, that story is not far away. It is right here. It is in our harbors, our farms, our houses, our burial grounds, our shoreline, and the historic markers that quietly remind us who came before us. Today's presentation is about those markers. 50 years ago, during the United States bicentennial, East Hampton joined communities across the country in making places of historic importance. That effort was an act of care. It reflected a belief that these places were worth remembering and preserving, that the lives lived here, the work done here, the families raised here, and the sacrifices made here are part of the American story, too. There are 22 known bicentennial markers throughout the town of East Hampton, from Long Wharf and Sag Harbor to the Montauk Lighthouse. Some bring us back to the Revolutionary War. Some speak to farming, fishing, shipping, education, craftsmanship, and service. Some tell stories of hardship. Some tell stories of everyday life. Together, they remind us that history is not only something we read about, it is something we live beside. Before we begin, I want to say a word about the seal you will see on these markers and the new America 250th commemorative seal. The 1976 East Hampton Bicentennial Commemorative Seal was designed by Frank Borth, a Montauk artist, former town board member, and nationally known illustrator. Frank also designed East Hampton's official town seal, which was approved by the town board in 1957. The bicentennial commemorative seal captured East Hampton in a way that people could recognize: the windmill, the working figures, the year 1648, and the connection between our town's long history and the founding of our country. A seal takes a big story and gives it a shape we can hold on to. And now, as we mark America's 250th anniversary, the new commemorative seal carries that tradition forward. It honors the generations that built this community before us, and it reminds us that now it is our turn to carry these stories forward. That is what pride in community really means. It's not just loving a place because it is beautiful, although we are blessed that East Hampton is beautiful. It is loving a place enough to remember it honestly. It is loving it enough to teach its history to our children. It is loving it enough to care for what has been entrusted to us. And it is understanding that love of country begins close to home in the way we care for our neighbors, our communities, and the places that tell us who we are. Today, you will hear about places including Camp Wyckoff, the Charles S. Parsons Smithy, Culloden Point, the Dominy House and Furniture Shop, the Jeremiah Conklin House, Long Wharf, the Montauk Lighthouse, the schoolhouse site at Northwest, and Second House in Montauk. Each one tells a different part of America, East Hampton's story, and together they tell us something powerful. East Hampton is not separate from the American story. East Hampton is part of it. So as we prepare for America 250, I hope this presentation today encourages all of us to visit these markers, read them, talk about them, as well as support and attend the programs offered by our local historical societies and organizations who are here with us today, and help pass these stories on to the next generation. Because when we understand the history beneath our feet, we feel a deeper connection to this place, and we remember that part of America's story is written right here in East Hampton. So I just want to thank you all for being here and being a part of this, and we hope that everyone enjoys these presentations. So first up is David Lease and Chelsea Winslow, and they're going to be giving us a presentation on the town's plans for the semi-quincentennial.
That was well said. Thank you so very much, and thank you for everyone for being here then too. My name is David Leese. I'm the Deputy Supervisor of the Town of East Hampton. As you might know, a lifelong resident of the Town of East Hampton. What many of you might not know is I am a bicentennial baby. I just turned 50. And when I look back at some of our town seals from 1976, but also specifically some of my friends that were the bicentennial child, Christine Dubinsky, who was born on July 4th on there, it's quite great to be able to spend 50 years in this town and now be able to chance to actually help make sure all the history is not forgotten, but only passed along. Part of that process is I've always been observant to historical markers within the town. Why are they here? They predated myself, and they'll post-date when I'm gone. What can I join in with? How can I help? But one of the things is we don't want to forget our history, because our history is true. And we also sometimes don't want to repeat the history. But America's history is spectacular. And East Hampton's history is long and vast. And it's something I truly cherish. I cherish working with individuals that are in this room on there and the individuals on this board then too. With that being known, I think we've come up with a challenge to the residents and the visitors to the town of East Hampton using historical markers that have been in place for 50 years and might be just commonly thought of, overlooked, and not much given a glance to. When the supervisor and I were talking last night to a group of residents in Montauk, we told them about this. They all then recognized, oh, I know about that stone. Now let's draw you to that stone. Let's draw you to that piece of history. We have a challenge for you. So with the help of Chelsea Winslow here, yes, I want to move forward and tell everyone what we're going to do as far as the township and have fun with this. Again, as the supervisor mentioned, on the right of this slide here now showing is the town's semi-quincentennial seal. Again, Frank Borth designed it, and we just changed it to use for the 2026. Again, this is a presentation on the United States of America semi-quincentennial presentation and an historical trail marker challenge for the town of East Hampton. Next, thank you. The town of East Hampton Town's America's semi-quincentennial. If you're not aware of it, the United States of America semi-quincentennial, also called America 250, marks the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 2026. The word semi-quincentennial derives from Latin roots, semi meaning half, quin for 5, centennial for 100 years, collectively denoting 250 years. All across America, as the supervisor had mentioned, celebrations are planned. But in East Hampton, the semi-quincentennial is especially important due to the role East Hampton played during the American Revolution. It's not just the events that occurred in East Hampton during the American Revolution, but the individuals from East Hampton and the patriots that defines East Hampton as a prominent township and contributing community to East Hampton's and America's fight for independence. Next, please. What you'll see here is actually a map that Frank Borth, Tom Thorson, who was from the East Hampton Planning Department, and other local historians made in 1976, that denoted East Hampton and historical sites throughout the area. This is actually readily available at the Montauk Lighthouse and also can be found onto the library's website. It's quite interesting. The first time I saw this was hanging over the top of my brother-in-law's Danny Leland, who Mr. Leland was a commercial bayman out here. Great man, and it actually has a gold seal on it. So I don't know if that was a special one. I don't know all about the history of the town of East Hampton. I'm looking for individuals in this room or out there to help fill in also, because the more we do that together, the more we all learn together. Anyway, next, please. So part about this challenge comes back from April 29, 1776. This is an article from the East Hampton Star, and it's from across the board from Councilwoman Mary Fallon at the time. This is what it was written. In the past weeks, you may have noticed some bright red markers placed at various locations throughout the town. No doubt you surmise that the surveyors are busy. No, they are the placement of markers for the bicentennial historical bronze plaques. When the Bicentennial Committee, which was formed in 1975, to outline projects over the year, it was decided that certain historical sites in East Hampton Town should be marked and located with an historical marker. Although the committee would like to have mark all historical sites, it was impossible. Consequently, 25 sites were chosen and bronze plaques were ordered. The plaques contain the bicentennial seal at the top of the marker, followed by a legend explaining each site. Mounting the bronze plaques became a difficult task. However, the creative ability of several men in the Parks Department solved the problem. The marker is placed in a cement mold and then set set in the cement with epoxy. It is my sincere hope that these markers will familiarize the residents and the visitors with our marvelous history. The planning department is also compiling a historical map and legend and will locate the 25 historical sites. Once the map is finished, the committee then plans to print additional copies of the map. What you see here is actually what the marker looks like fresh, built, and this is at Jason's Rock, which is up in Northwest. Many of these historical markers have sank a little bit, but the same people are caring for these. I want to thank Steve O'Brien and individuals in the Buildings and Grounds Department for going around to many of these historical markers and then also cleaning them recently. I also want to thank County Legislator Ann Welker and Richard Martin, who is the historian for the Suffolk County Parks, because now not just 22 markers are known, there are now 23. There was a unicorn that was out there and it was at Cedar Point Park and we couldn't find it. And we, working with the East Hampton Library, we got a video from Captain David Cataletto, who many of us know, who found this marker in the middle of the woods down by the point and by Cedar Point. The Parks Department there at Cedar Point Park has found that marker. They are going to potentially be moving it shortly, and now we know where there's 23 of these markers. Hence, as you see in a final slide, we don't know where 2 markers still are. We've gone through many historians. Rick Whalens assisted with this. So if anyone else can help us with the last 2, please let us know. You'll get a T-shirt. What is a bicentennial marker? Next, please. Thank you, Chelsea. A bicentennial marker is an historical marker that commemorates significant events or milestones often associated with the bicentennial celebrations in the United States. You'll see this on Suffolk County. You'll see this in New York State. You'll see this all throughout America. I would welcome everyone to go to some of these historical websites to see where these markers are. These markers were erected to honor historical events and locations in East Hampton's town history and being installed, as we just noted, in the creation of the United States of Independence as a republic, particularly during the 1976 bicentennial. Next. So where can I find these markers? Of the original 25 markers placed, there are 23 known locations of the original historical markers. And yes, I changed that actually just last night, Madam Supervisor, so I apologize. Scattered out to the town of East Hampton, starting at Long Wharf in Sag Harbor, all the way to the Montauk Point Lighthouse. The town encourages residents and visitors to explore each of these markers and appreciate the history that lies around them. An interactive map of the marker locations can be found on the town's website, or if you go to the QR code here, if you take your phone, just go to the camera, it will come up directly to the town's website. I want to thank the IT department for the assistance on the website and building this out with us to an interactive map for us now too. Chelsea, if you can maybe go from here and bring up the interactive map.
Jason, would you mind pulling up the map on the link I sent you?
Absolutely. I'm just going to stop the presentation for 2 seconds, and then I'm going to go and make it happen. So here is the map for everybody. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So
Jason, if you want, you can go through and pick whichever marker. You can scroll through the side
Awesome.
panel, or you can zoom in on the map just so people know how to use it.
yeah, absolutely. So here is the first one that I did, which was, I believe, the schoolhouse site Northwest. And
that schoolhouse site. So as Jason mentioned, if you go to the interactive map, which actually will come up on your on your cell phone very well then too, it will give you a little bit of the history of the map and those locations then too. This one specifically at the schoolhouse is where Isaac Van Scoy, what we hear about later, was actually a patriot of the American Revolution, is interned on there. And Jason, maybe you want to go out to one out of Montauk? There should be one out by the Montauk School. This one's very interesting because Hugh just brought it up. It'd be the one that is to the left of Lake Montauk. To the left, sir.
Thank you very much.
Not Lake Montauk, or Pond, I meant to say.
Okay.
I believe it's
All right.
the Revolutionary Incident.
Yes.
Get there a little bit closer. All right. So.
Yeah, so this one's very interesting on here, and it's the site. It says the site of American Revolutionary Incident. I bring this up by 2 things because Hugh, you just mentioned it. This is the site of Dayton's Ruse. On this historical marker, Dayton's Ruse is when John Dayton actually circled the hill twice. because the redcoats were coming through the blockade of the HMS Culloden and such. He went around, circled once. He got his men to then change their outfits, and they rused the English to think there was many more men that there actually were. So it was Dayton's ruse. So the ruse of the drink that's at the Crow's Nest probably was named after this. I have consequently contacted Josh Odom from the superintendent of schools from Montauk School, and him and his kids will be doing a little Instagram post for us. I also want to thank others that are in the room here, also Assemblyman Schiavone. I want to thank also the Village of East Hampton, the Village of Sag Harbor, New York State Parks also for their assistance, as some of these markers are within their boundary jurisdictions, and as we continue to put out Instagram posts, and our public relations officer will go to that next. Yes, and that's Long Wharf. How many times have you all passed by Long Wharf and not noticed this? Well, guess what? Next time you will. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason.
Chelsea, let's go through some of these historical sites as we go forward here then too. Chelsea? I will start off. This one we can't wick off. We'll go back to the
Just
program
start
if
the
you can.
presentation again, and you should be good to go.
Yes, please.
Reshare, give me one.
Page 8.
Okay, that should be coming up in a second. There we go.
Camp Wyckoff, sometimes people call it Wyckoff, is actually another location where we have one the bicentennial historical markers that we hope individuals will visit. It was the first visit of the sitting president of the United States when William McKinley visited the camp. Theodore Roosevelt's participation in the Spanish-American War and his presence at Camp Wyckoff was instrumental to the road to political prominence. As you'll see on it, on the stone plaque here, and also on it gives the date and the amount of 29,500 veterans and the Rough Riders of the Spanish-American War occupied 500 acres on the Great Plain in the North Neck of Montauk on there. We welcome people to visit this site. This site, if you go to the next page here, you'll see some of the pictures of Camp Wyckoff of the 24th Infantry arriving at Camp Wyckoff in Montauk in 1898. We thank the Montauk Library for these pictures here. What you can see is the vastness of Montauk at that time. It was pretty much grazing pasture land. Next. This is the site of where Camp Wyckoff is and where the stone is. The stone is actually just to the is just in their center there. It is actually buried down between the two trees. It is the site of the in front of the Herb Sabowski Little League fields out in Montauk, also known as Lions Field. Again, when I say many people might come very close to running it over, we will be putting a sign next to it. But again, many people pass by this site daily, just don't know what it is. So we welcome you back to the site. Next, Chelsea.
Okay, Charles Silas Parsons was born in 1858 on the Parson Farm at Fireplace, a large house at the bend in the road just before it goes to the beach. The 1865 New York State Agricultural Census describes the farm as 480 acres, i.e. 130 improvised acres. He had 12 cattle, sheep, pigs, and poultry, as well as 4 oxen and 7 horses. He harvested 70 cords of wood and grew winter wheat, winter rye, oats, barley, Indian corn, potatoes, and turnips. With this large working farm, Charlie became well acquainted with all facets of fixed things. Talented genes also gave Charlie Parsons his expert blacksmith creativity and ability. Charles Parsons' blacksmith shop played an important role in repairing and building for the people of Springs. He made anchors and horseshoes and other iron implements. He had a buggy and carriage shop and made wagons and sleighs. He had a large turning lathe in the shop and a fine saw table for cutting lumber. When he died in 1926, his shop was the last working blacksmith shop in East Hampton. And here's what the blacksmith shop looked like in its original location in 1980 with Charles Parsons, who's also known as the Edison of Springs. And here's where the blacksmith shop is now and what it looks like today.
So if you see just to the right of the main structure, the painted structure, you'll see the stone to the bottom right there. What is great to know now is that under the leadership of Kathy Burke-Gonzalez and Ian Calder Piedmont assisted, this blacksmith shop has been recladded also recently and will be open for use in the coming months. It's a wonderful site in the heart of Springs, and we welcome people to go visit the site as they go about this challenge of this trail. Thank you. Next, Culloden Point. Culloden Point is in Montauk, and during the American Revolutionary War, the British ship of the line HMS Culloden ran aground here in a storm on January 24th, 1781, while attempting to get from Block Island Sound to the open Atlantic Ocean to escape a winter gale and snowstorm with 2 other British ships. As we encountered the Long Island and the sea by Bill Blyer, the ship of the HMS Bedford leading the trio successfully turned around at midnight when her captain realized they had not cleared Montauk Point. But Captain George Balfour of the Culloden continued on to 4 a.m. when the lookout saw breakers ahead and tried unsuccessfully to turn the ship back into Block Island Sound. Efforts to refloat the Culloden the next day were unsuccessful. So after recovering bronze cannons, other supplies, and leaving old iron cannon behind, Balfour ordered the ship burned to the waterline to keep her out of Patriots' hands. The wreck was discovered in 1970 with portions of it washed along. One of the cannons is on display at the East Hampton Marine Museum downstairs in Amagansett, and where there's also an extensive display of Culloden artifacts. Again, this marker is actually on the County Road, Flamingo Road, County Road 49, I believe it is. It's just across from the water tower, and it's across from a trailhead of Culloden Point Preserve, where you can go for a nice walk in some of the preserved trails, but also come to see one of these historical markers. We welcome everyone to visit it. Next. This is the location, the Rock Bluff. It's a wonderful beach if anyone wants to go visit this open space location. It's also one of the locations of where there is, I believe it's a National Historically Registered underwater monument of the HMS Culloden, and also the place of where the Amistad landed. Next. This is a picture of the HMS Culloden. I think, again, the Montauk Library on there. Thank you. Next, we'll go through the Dominy Home and Workshop then. Chelsea, this one is in the village.
Okay, the Dominy House was home to several generations of the Dominy family of East Hampton. It was a lean-to type of house built in 1773 on the west side of Main Street. The first Dominy recognized for the carpentry and clockwork that the family is celebrated for was Nathaniel Dominy V, the son of Nathaniel Dominy III, and the former Elizabeth Ayers. Nathaniel V served as sealer of weights and measures and as a town trustee. He also supervised the building of Long Island windmills, including the Gardner and Hook mills and the mill on Gardner's Island. His son, Nathaniel VI, followed his father as a craftsman, and grandson soon followed, named Felix Dominy. These 3 generations lived together in the house and worked in a shop that was added to the right side of the house in 1791. Later, in 1798, a clock shop was built on the other side. These workshops housed pieces of machinery and tools used to make the clocks and furniture that made the family well known beyond East Hampton. So here's the Dominy home where it first stood. And here's the Dominy home now. And the bicentennial marker is actually just to the back of this house in the parking lot area.
That is correct. We want to thank the East Hampton Historical Society and Bob Hefner for a very accurate recreation, and it's open for tours, and you can go to the East Hampton Historical website on there to find out when those tours are. Thank you very much. Next one is very interesting. The Jeremiah Conklin House. This stone is directly on Main Street, Amagansett. You probably walk past it every day if you want to go for anything from Amber Waves all the way down to the Stevens Talk House. It is on the north side of it. I'll read directly from the stone. This is the Jeremiah Conklin House. A party of British soldiers under Lieutenant Darby came to Amagansett in the spring of 1780 looking for deserters. They fired into the home of Jeremiah Conklin through the door and shattered the windows to retreat from the shots. His children went into the oven.
Wow.
You know, you do whatever you do to save the family. Next, shown here is the Jeremiah Conklin farmhouse built prior to the American Revolution. Next. And this is actually the Jeremiah Conklin house as it stands now. Very well preserved. Chelsea, I think we got two more for us here.
Okay, the Long Wharf. Although early settlers were first attracted to the area that would become known as Sag Harbor in the late 1600s because its meadows offered an abundant supply of salt hay to feed their livestock, they soon saw its potential for a port. That port would soon supplant Northwest Harbor and North Sea. Shipping was established in Sag Harbor as early as the turn of the 18th century, and there were efforts dating to the early 1740s to build a proper wharf. But the first one was not built until 1761, when Nathaniel Fordham Jr. and James Foster constructed a modest structure a few hundred feet to the west of the current Long Wharf. Work on what is now Long Wharf did not begin until 1770, when an association of men from East Hampton and Southampton bought land on either side of the town line and built a structure that was 30 rods, a rod is 5.5 yards long, and 35 feet wide. It was completed in 1771. And the Long Wharf marker reads, "It was the scene of a great whaling activity. It was built in 1770 and was crowded with refugees to Connecticut in 1776. This is a really cool photo of what Long Wharf used to look like. I believe there's also another image in 27 East where the rails actually collapsed at one point. And the Long Wharf today.
So the marker to the Long Wharf is just in front of this. It's closer actually to the flagpole there. It is sunken a little bit. And again, I want to thank the mayor of Sag Harbor and the village trustee board of Sag Harbor also. We will be displaying one of our signs there shortly. So that's the Long Wharf. Lastly, this is an interesting one. I never knew it was here. I walked by it all the time until I was there with the lighthouse keeper just a little bit back. So that's not necessarily my blunder. That's just me learning history. This one's the Montauk Lighthouse. This is actually one of the larger plaques on there. Again, as we know, the Montauk Lighthouse is the first lighthouse in New York State and is the fourth oldest active lighthouse in the United States. The tower is 110 feet, 6 inches high, current height, and it has a 3.5 order bivalve clamshell Fresnel lens. As we might know, in 1792, the construction of the lighthouse was authorized by the Second United States Congress under President George Washington. I don't have to say more than that. This stone is at the lighthouse. I want to thank the Montauk Historical Society for their stewardship of the lighthouse. This is as you walk up the hill, Turtle Hill there, it is on the left. Chelsea, next.
So the difference in this one, just to point out, it's not going to be in a small rock like the other bicentennial markers are. This one's in a much larger like boulder, so it's much easier to spot this one.
Correct. Or not spot. For myself, but it's included on there. And some of the old lighthouse pictures that we have here. I'll complete us off here, Chelsea. We went over the Northwest Schoolhouse site that is here. And again, the Northwest Schoolhouse, it shows where the Van Scoy burial ground is. And why that I lead up into the Van Scoy burial ground is because the Van Scoy burial ground is here next, and our next topic is on the National Historical Register and has a Patriot stone there. Lastly on here, as we keep moving, we have Second House here, and two. There's some pictures from there. The Second House stone is directly on Montauk Highway, right outside the gates to Second House. As we're quite aware on here, I'll read it from the stone. The substantial house was built in 1745 for the first shepherd, Nathaniel Talmadge. Sheep were pastured on Shepherd's Neck, which is just north of there, and the present house was built in 1797. As you know, the town of East Hampton has restored Second House to its glory, and the Montauk Historical Society is active steward of the property, engaged in many crafts fairs, many exhibitions. We'll probably hear more from the executive director today. We have pictures here also. Okay, moving on. That's just a little bit of the history. Here's the challenge to everyone, and if you're listening, and if you want to read about this, write about this, talk about this. The East Hampton Town Semi-Quincentennial Historical Trail Marker Challenge. Moving forward, an informational sign will be placed at these sites. That informational sign, as is below, would have a QR code. The plaque is the stone. It will tell you about the stone, and the QR code that is here will draw you to the town's website and the town's social media pages for more information on there. Patrick, is Patrick available?
Yep.
Sure. I want to bring up now Patrick Durenz. Patrick Durenz is the town's public information officer to tell us how this challenge marker will work on our social media pages then too, and how we can actively all engage. Now, let me be very honest and transparent. I have 0 social media pages to myself. I lurk through my kids' pages. Patrick is the expert here, but we know this is one of the best ways to engage the residents and the communities, but also the generation that we want, the next generation, which can't get off of social media. So maybe this will be some good. Patrick.
Yeah, so I guess when we first started talking about this a couple months ago, we were trying to think of ways to encourage more people to visit these markers. And one of the ways we thought to do that was by starting the challenge. And we are encouraging residents to use our hashtag EastHampton250. as well as tagging us on Facebook and Instagram. We're Town of East Hampton on Facebook, and we are at Town of East Hampton on Instagram. And send us your selfies of you at our markers. Show us how you're engaging with our local history. And you could possibly win one of our limited edition Town of East Hampton semi-quincentennial t-shirts.
Next page will explain that.
Yeah, so I will be also as well sharing. If you're tagging us on Instagram, I'll share your post to our stories so we can try to get the word out about this challenge.
Thank you, Patrick. And we will be tracking your posts on there and counting them. So if you find all 23 of them, too, as you say, we will have a t-shirt for you. So we actively ask everyone to try to do that and see if they can maybe get that complete by July 31st on there. Again, these stones will be there a lot longer there. Again, we're just trying to draw you to some of the town's history in a very active, little fun way. Patrick, thank you, Sarah, very much for all your efforts in assisting with this in the town right now. I think it's going to be fun then, too.
Thanks, Sarah.
Appreciate it. Lastly, on here, the East Hampton Town Semi-Quincentennial Historical Trail Marker Challenge. A bonus will be available if you know or can find the 24th and 25th marker that are not located on our town's website right now. I do not know where they are. There's many that don't, but there might be someone that does. And if you do, please let us know. It would be a help. Truly, it will be. And now, lost history will come back, and we won't lose it again then, too. Two other things here. This is, again, how some of the other stones look. They've been cleaned up and moving forward. And if you're interested on there, and if you're listening to me and still listening here, please go to our last page here. This will be our town's website. Again, you can use the QR code that'll be out there. We will be presenting this. Again, it's a fun way to engage in history in the town of East Hampton, not just for how East Hampton was engaged in the American Revolution, but also just engaged in the history of America then too. With that, I thank the town board and I thank everyone for their support of this, this initiative.
Thank you, David. Okay, now we want to talk about the Amagansett Cemetery Patriot Headstone Restoration.
That is correct. And too, we have another initiative that the town board is taking on there, and let me just tee that up. I would like to bring forward Zachary Studenroth, please. Zachary Studenroth is from the Burial Ground Preservation Group. And then too, we've been working with Zach for the last maybe 8 years.
I think since 2019.
It's restoring historical cemeteries, colonial cemeteries in the town of East Hampton. And part of our initiative this year on there is to restore Patriot zones that are going to be in the Amagansett Cemetery. Again, it's a Patriot stone restoration efforts on there then too. I'll just go through the first couple slides and then Zach will help me on here then too. Yep. We'll let everyone know that East Hampton Town and its Revolutionary War patriots. What is a patriot? Patriots are defined by those who were at all times unfailing in loyalty and rendered acceptable service to the cause of the American independence. Service must have been carried out, with some exceptions, on or before April 19th, 1775 and November 26, 1783. Many other qualifying criteria of service are also commonly accepted for recognition by chapters of the SAR and the DAR chapters. I actually have here in my hand, and you see how I wrote on it. This was to the next page, if you don't mind, Chelsea. This is actually a pamphlet that was put out by the Daughters of the American Revolution. I believe this was put out in,
Put out in 1998.
well, then maybe I shouldn't be writing on it as much, but I do have a couple copies because I take my notes on there. Then two, where I recognize where all the locations of the Patriot stones were in the town of East Hampton. If I could just read from this, and I want to thank Harry Edwards. I don't know if Mrs. Edwards is here today, and in the Daughters of the American Revolution for doing this. Quote, life in colonial East Hampton during the Revolution. In 1776, the town of East Hampton was a thriving, prosperous community of 1,250 persons, 318 of them male and over 16 years of age. East Hampton well-to-do families lived in large houses on 8 or 10 acre home lots. Some of the original lots their forefathers had purchased in 1648. Several men were merchants engaged in well-established West Indies trades, while others supplied the goods for trading. There were 115 farmers, 66 weavers, 51 cordwainers, and leather workers, salted beef, hides, tallow, candles, feathers, barrel staves, and woven cloth were produced and were shipped to the Barbados, as well as live horses that were used for sugar mills there. Shore whaling had become a source of income in the past. By the 1770s, however, there were no longer great schools of whales drifting along the shore. This type of whaling was becoming unprofitable. Livestock was still the valuable source of income, the source of many of the products for trade since 1687. The grazing lands of Montauk had been purchased by families of East Hampton and their sheep, cattle, and horses, each bearing the owner's registered earmark, were driven on Montauk to graze. In May of 1775, 234 able-bodied men of East Hampton signed the Association, a document containing statements which protested against British misrule and bound the signers to assist, in whatever way they might, the cause of American independence. A number of the men served as part of Captain Ezekiel Mulford's company and Colonel Josiah Smith's regiment for protection of Long Island. After George Washington withdrew from the western end of Long Island, Battle of Long Island, which is probably one of the most significant battles of the American Revolution, on August 29, 1776, the inhabitants of Suffolk County were urged to remove as many of their women, children, and slaves as much as their livestock and grain to the Maine as they could. 129 captains from Long Island, many of whom became refugees themselves, and 81 captains from Connecticut transported both people and goods across the Sound in sloops and schooners. The refugees left their homes on short notice and little provisions for the future. Both those who fled to Connecticut and those who remained had difficult times. The non-combatants on Long Island were treated miserably. The refugees in Connecticut were often robbed of their possessions. In the news of the truce, the Long Island residents started to return. The men came back first with lumber to rebuild their houses and horses, to work in their fields. Later, their families' furnitures were transported. They became to restore their lives and fortunes, satisfied to be citizens of a new and independent nation, but always came back to their home of East Hampton. Thank you. Next page, if you don't mind. On here, the foreword of this is that the location of graves of 116 Revolutionary War patriots, which are within the boundaries of the town of East Hampton, have been listed in this booklet. The graves of many others from East Hampton who served in the Revolution are located outside the town, some as near as Southampton and others as far as the West Indies. Many of these gravestones are not readable anymore due to deterioration, and some of the stones no longer exist at all. In absence of tombstones, however, each of the burials can be reconfirmed by other sources, primarily cemetery records on there. What I want to state is that why we picked this cemetery, which has 12 Patriot stones in there, the town of East Hampton actually owns the South End Cemetery and the North End Cemetery in the village of East Hampton, New York State cemetery law. The South End Cemetery, which is down by Town Pond, actually the town of East Hampton just put on the new fence down there 2 years ago. We worked with the trustee board down there. We applied for a grant there, and we will continue to work to restore that cemetery. And we now also will look at the North End Cemetery, which Mrs. Edwards actually believes there might be some funding to do so. We could start work on that too. But this cemetery in Amagansett was perfect for us to start. Zach,
yeah.
I want you to explain number 5 and how this moves us in slide 5. This is Isaac Van Scoy and how we'll move forward into Amagansett.
Right, so this is Isaac Van Scoy at the Van Scoy Burying Ground. This was, I believe, our first project, David.
Yes, it was.
Back in 2019. And coincidentally, has this Patriot marker. A bit of a challenge. You can see the repairs still stand out. They were colored to potentially and eventually match the color of the stone. The stone is made of marble, but over the years, it's discolored primarily through biogrowth, which is living organisms on the surface. There's a technique of cleaning that, but it develops over time. The biggest challenge in preserving, this was one of about 30 or so stones that we repaired. The biggest challenge here is, aside from it being broken into 4 pieces, is that the base that you'll see at the bottom there actually goes down over, I'd say, 2 to 2.5 feet. That has to be brought up and straightened, made plumb, so that the upper pieces can be attached and will align properly. And those pieces are quite heavy, and so they oftentimes have to be pinned, drilled and pinned, in addition to being glued with a special epoxy. So all that work was done. That site has been stabilized.
Correct. If we go to the next page,
Next. Okay, so now we've moved on, and that was listed on the National Register. Actually, what's quite interesting, and this was a COVID project that we surveyed all of the historic cemeteries and burying grounds in the town and created what's known as it's a historic district, but it's composed of like things. Like there is a district of historic windmills, for example, which are widely scattered. So this is a historic district of cemeteries and burying grounds throughout the town of East Hampton. And there are over 50 sites on this. So this is one of the participating sites in that. So what we've done is in choosing Amagansett, of course, for this year, it's a great concentration. There are a dozen or so patriots there, all different stone types. One of the challenges in this work is that the basic stone types are slate, marble, and brownstone. In this period, we're primarily looking at brownstone, which is late 1700s.
Chelsea, if you go to the next one.
And then we move into marble in the early 1800s. Realize that many of these patriots fought in 1776 or in those 7 years, but the ones who were lucky enough to survive lived well into the 19th century. And so their stones, their markers are typically of marble. This particular view that we're looking at, the flag is not of the little crooked marker behind the flag, that's a later stone, but it's these pieces in the foreground. Oftentimes we will find a stone that may be obliterated into many pieces, but through probing we can find enough pieces that are worthy of reassembling. If not, the Veterans Administration actually administers a program in which replacement markers can be furnished, not for all patriots. This is specifically the Veterans Administration. So it's not the Patriots Administration. But oftentimes a patriot is or was a veteran, meaning an actual combatant in the revolution, and they will get a replacement marker if their service can be well documented. We recently did this in Sag Harbor with the Lester Beebe stone in Sag Harbor. So we will exhume these pieces, so to speak, and look to see what is left, and then explore options for marking this spot if there aren't enough of the stones.
Zach, is there any way that any assistance from any community members upon this project?
Yeah, what we like to do, there are many things that volunteers can do under guidance. And one would be simple cleaning, because we have very basic cleaning techniques that have to be learned, but are certainly anyone who's has a few hand skills and time on a Saturday afternoon. There is also straightening of stones, which after you overcome the initial reservation about putting a shovel into the ground in a cemetery, but under proper supervision, we can very easily teach how to straighten up a stone. And that's important, not just cosmetically, but stones that begin to lean will eventually lean past the point where they're now in jeopardy of actually falling and potentially breaking. And so leveling up these stones is very important and great work. And so we can sponsor workshops to encourage volunteers to come out.
Well, I want to thank the board over the years, and also thank yourself,
yes,
Kurt and Joel, for all their assistance on this initiative. There are Patriot stones in every hamlet in the town of East Hampton, from Wainscott Cemetery all the way to Nominnick Cemetery in Montauk on there then too. And again, as you've heard from me in the past, many times the only written record of an individual in the town of East Hampton is what's on their headstone right now. Yeah. So I want to thank you for that. You can just stay with me for a moment.
Oh,
and
sure,
our next page here, then too. I want to thank the board also for supporting a grant application. This is a grant application to the William Pomeroy Foundation for an Historical Marker Award. This special historical marker series commemorates patriot burials with an opportunity to recognize those who fought and were involved in the struggle for American independence. The Patriot Burials Marker Program provides Sons of the American Revolution state societies with the opportunity to apply for the markers to be placed at locations where Revolutionary War patriots are buried. Special thanks is to Tim Middlebrook, who I directly worked with, and Chelsea and I worked with, and also Nicole Facito. He was the president of the Empire State Society of the Sons of the American Revolution, for his guidance and support for the town's application, which has been successful. I also want to thank and support the trustees of the Amagansett Cemetery, who are Carl Hampton, Marty Mahor, and Bruce Stonemetz. This historical marker, as you'll see in the next one, will be placed at the entrance, once furnished, on Atlantic Avenue there, and it will state about the Patriot burials that happened in this location. Very similar to other historical markers that you see. These ones actually started in 1935 by the Department of Education, and you'll see around town. So I want to thank you for that. My last one on here. I want to, myself and the entire town board, want to thank all who have served our nation. Zach, I thank you. I look forward to your assistance on this project. If you don't mind, Madam Supervisor, I have a guest here who I invited here. I would love to have him come up. His name is Stephen Talmadge. He is a member of the Sons of the American Revolution. He's a close family friend of ours then too. And I just want to have you come up and say a couple of words if you don't mind, Mr. Talmadge. Nice to see you, Mrs. Talmadge, also. I put you on the spot, Mr. Talmadge. Sorry about that.
Well, first, thank you for inviting me. I'm not here prepared to speak. And I am a member of the Sons of the American Revolution, but I'm not here to represent them. There's no hierarchy in the organization, hasn't okayed for me to say anything. But there's a lot of people in East Hampton that have lineage that could join to the DAR and the SAR. I'm one of those who actually got my membership by tagging on my daughter who joined the DAR, and that made it quite simple for me to join, and my grandson's after me too. My patriot ancestor is buried in Cedar Lawn Cemetery, and Cedar Lawn Cemetery wasn't a cemetery when he died. His remains were moved there, and that's in the Miller family plot. I thank you very much for recognizing us. One of the things I would like to say, I told you I tagged on the research from my daughter. East Hampton town had a well-established government of like 130 years, more or less, before the American Revolution. The East Hampton Town Trustees, I've been told, are the oldest continuously elected body of government in the United States. That's something we all can be proud of, to be residents of a town that has that form of government. One of the things that in their history that we should acknowledge but would not be that proud of, the East Hampton Town Trustees didn't recognize women as being members of the town, of owning, that they could own land. And I believe it didn't happen at the time of the Revolution. I think it was almost 100 years after that, before the town, like not the Revolutionary War, but about the time of the Civil War, that the town recognized women. And then more like in the 1970s, before the town trustees ever elected a woman onto their board. So it is right that we recognize that history, that they didn't do things right. And that's really all I have. I thank you, David, and thank you, the board, again, for inviting me.
I appreciate your stories. We've known each other since I was a youth, but we discussed this in a pumpkin patch, right? and I look forward to inviting you and other members of the DR and the SAR and others when we work on the cemetery and install the plaque. I thank you very much for coming today, Mr. Talmadge. It's a pleasure to have you. And your daughter, who is Stephanie Forsberg, who is a teacher at the high school there then too, is a spectacular teacher.
Yeah.
Yes, spectacular. And I thank you for her for everything she's done for all the youth of the town of East Hampton, including my children too.
Thank you again.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
If we get to some of the people here, some
Yes,
of us
go
have to
for
go
it.
to work.
I am done and I'm moving on. So,
Okay,
and Madam
thank you.
Supervisor, that's what I have.
Great. Thank you, David. Okay, so first up, we're going to talk about, we're going to invite Peter Garnham up to talk about the Amagansett Historical Association. Welcome, Peter. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. As you know, the Miss Amelia Cottage, which is our museum, is of course 50 years older than this country. We celebrated our 300th anniversary last summer, and we look forward to taking part in this year's events as best we can. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Peter. I'd like to invite up Dan Mongan to talk about Amagansett Day. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks. Thanks for letting me talk about Amagansett Day. So on July 18th of this year, I guess 14 days after the big I can't say it, quincentennial?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Anyway, we are going to have open houses and some local events in town, really celebrating our history and our community. The Historical Association will be, which is one of the co-sponsors of the event, will be the nucleus because we have 4 really interesting buildings that will be open that day. The Amagansett Village Improvement Society, which is another co-sponsor, will be volunteering and assisting, but we're going to have some really great locations open that day by mutual cooperation. So for those of you that are interested in cultural history, the Stephen Talk House will be open for us that afternoon. It's by the way, from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. Very informal. It's just show up and see what you want to see. But we'll also have the old 1802 schoolhouse at the Amagansett School, the classic boat building society has expressed interest. The life-saving station will be open that day, and some of other local institutions. So that's it. I heard Peter when he referenced the proud and peculiar history of Amagansett as an old place. And I would just say that we in Amagansett are not really 300 or 350 or 400 years old. We're 21,000 years old. And every single person in Amagansett and in East Hampton is an immigrant. There was ice 21,000 years ago, and there's people now, and it's a great thing. Cheers.
Thank you, Dan. Next, I'd like to invite up the Executive Director of the East Hampton Historical. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a little bit. Is it possible people presenting great, we're looking at their back of their heads, could we turn that podium just a little bit in the direction of more?
You can't see it on the screen over here?
Oh, we got a lot of light coming in, okay.
I mean, we can angle that so you can see it better.
Forget about it.
Yeah, it faces this way for LTV, so for the viewers at home.
Suggestion.
Thank you. So I'd like to invite up the Executive Director of the East Hampton Historical Society, Steve Long. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Wanted to start off with, again, thank you for inviting us last month to talk to the town board. Colin Kelly, who's a high school senior, presented the May episode of the Spirit of 76 podcast that we've been doing all year. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. The focus of our semi-quincentennial efforts really focus on Mulford Farm. We are in the process of restoring and reinterpreting the site. It will recreate how it looked when it was owned by Colonel David Mulford in the late 18th century during the American Revolution. Very grateful to the town board for donating the stone that will serve as the front step to the farmhouse. Will be installed in the next couple of weeks if you want to come by and watch. The site's interpretation will invite visitors to consider the meaning of the Declaration of Independence. For a while, David Mulford was among East Hampton's leading patriots. He was also the community's largest slaveholder. So in addition to the Mulford family, visitors will learn about enslaved people of color, such as Aka, Daniel, Jack, and Rose, who sustained the farm during the American Revolution. And I'm very grateful to the Plain Sight Project. We actually know, because of their efforts, the names of 14 enslaved residents of Mulford Farm. In addition to the newly restored and reinterpreted Mulford Farmhouse, we're delighted to present on July 4th a revolutionary tour of East Hampton, which will be co-led by our town historian, Mr. Hugh King, in partnership also with Andrea Meyer at the Long Island Collection at the East Hampton Library. We've been collaborating with the East Hampton Library on a series of semi-quincentennial related lectures, part of the Tom Toomey series in September. I invite you to join us to see Chris Minty, a historian from the University of Virginia, will talk about the importance of Gardiner's Bay to the British Navy during the Revolution. Of course, as Councilmember Leese mentioned, the Culloden, HMS Culloden sank in January 1781, not too far from Gardiner's Bay, and it is, I'm delighted to say, officially in the collection of the East Hampton Historical Society. For the first nearly 45 years that we exhibited it, it was on loan to us from the New York State Museum, but they, a couple of years ago, officially transferred ownership to the Historical Society. So thrilled to be partnering with the town to renovate the East Hampton Town Marine Museum, and hopefully, fingers crossed, by the semi-quincentennial of the sinking of the Culloden, we will have this new exhibition featuring all of the marine archaeology as well as the story of what was happening with the British in Gardiner's Bay. Now, finally, we've begun planning a semi-quincentennial history festival on October 17th at Mulford Farm, which will feature reenactors, demonstrations, games, and music. And as part of the festivities, the Express News Group will be announcing the winners of a student essay contest about the Declaration of Independence. And as a little side note, David Mulford was actually the first person to receive a copy of the Declaration of Independence on the East End, which he read to the men in his militia regiment on July 24th. So the contest details will be shared in an upcoming semi-quincentennial edition of the newspapers. And I would be thrilled if all of my colleagues, as well as the town, would partner with us on the History Festival so that we can activate the farm and really educate our community about the meaning of the American Revolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Next, I'd like to invite up the Executive Director of the Eastville Community Historical Society, Dr. Georgette Greer-Key. Welcome, Georgette.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Georgette Greer-Key. I'm the Executive Director of Eastville Community Historical Society in Sag Harbor, as well as an appointed New York State 250th Commission member and a participating member of Suffolk 250. And so I thank you for having me here today, and a hello and to everyone out there, and especially to my historical comrades that are here today. So good to see you. And so when I think about the American Revolution, I also think about, which is in the state law, the unfinished revolution. I think earlier today it was said that there are some things that were not finished and included in the revolution. So I'm focusing on that part of it, the unfinished revolution, the African American agency on Long Island. And so when I think about the semi-cinquentennial, I think about what we all did not learn about during the bicentennial. And so as we approach the 250th anniversary, we are looking at the unfinished revolution that happened right here on Long Island. We're just not looking at the contributions. We are looking at suggestions that we include others, including formerly enslaved, free African Americans, the indigenous, and also women. They were not merely someone that were here in the back seat, but as it was said earlier, they are the ones that kept farms going, households going when this war was going on. And so when we look at that, we look at the agency that it took for many of these people to navigate the challenge of how you redefine what liberty is for themselves. And so we pause for the commemoration of the semi-cinquentennial. We also acknowledge those who weren't free until 100 years later. We recognize the free labor in enslaved bodies. So we remain, that some of them, many remain nameless and denied dignity. We recognize that both are deeply connected, shared roots in the nation's ongoing struggle for defined freedom, citizenship, and democracy. And so further, we recognize that the slight of these people not being mentioned, acknowledge that today we look at the Lady Liberty, the statue of Lady Liberty, but we also must acknowledge the shackles that are her feet that represent these people. And so I have a PowerPoint here, but you don't see it. We think about the dichotomy of the revolution. On the eve of the revolution, we think about the thousands of people that were enslaved. We look at the data that tells us Kings County had approximately 1,000 to 1,200 enslaved people here, and that's about 1/3 of the population, 263 people. We look at Queens County, which is Nassau County. They had approximately 2,000 people enslaved. And then we look at Suffolk County, around 11% of the population was enslaved. That's approximately 1,400 to 15 people that were enslaved. And so while patriots fought for independence from Britain, Black Long Islanders fought a second revolution for freedom from chattel slavery. The revolution lies in its dual nature as both pursuit of liberation and a source of oppression, often fighting for freedom while simultaneously denying it to others. Revolutions are often fight as a universal freedom, but the American Revolution resulted in new power structures that excluded enslaved individuals, Native people, and women. So we seek to move beyond just the contribution of their agency, and many of the agencies that African Americans were just in the background as figures, but they were strategists, they were soldiers, and they were founders within their created communities. Long Island's unique position. Remember that the occupied state of Britain, the British for 7 years created no man's land, where Black individuals had to navigate shifting loyalties to secure their own futures and make strategic choices. We look at such people. I have an image of here of Tom, which was a freedom seeker from the Pearson family in Sag Harbor that Michael A. Butler had painted of him, basically from the freedom seekers ads that just describe who he was. And then we look at someone, voices of the time, Jupiter Hammond, who was born at Lloyd Manor, but his family descended from Shelter Island. And so his address to Negroes in the state of Negroes in 1786. He used the revolutionary language of liberty to argue for gradual emancipation, proving that Black intellectuals were framing the moral argument for the new nation. Then we go to places like Sylvester Manor on Shelter Island. It challenges the myth that slavery was only a Southern issue. Founded in 1651, this is a provisioning plantation and an industrial scale farm designed to feed sugar plantations in Barbados. It reminds us that wealth of the North was deeply entangled with the transatlantic slave trade, and today is a site of consciousness where Afro-Indigenous burial grounds focus us to confront the human cost of the colonial economy that preceded the revolution. And then, of course, I have to mention from enslavement to sovereignty when we look at a person like Pierce Conser. The story doesn't end in 1783. The skills and resilience forged on these plantations led to figures like Pierce Conser, born enslaved. He earned his freedom, world-class whaler, and in 1845, he was among the first Americans to enter Japan, a global voyager representing a new era of Black sovereignty. His success as a landowner and philanthropist in Southampton shows the trajectory from the patriarch paradox to the true economic and personal independence that people seek. We look in the 1776, the British occupation of Long Island led many enslaved people to seek freedom by fleeing British lines, following promises of manumission for those who were left with their rebel masters. And so by 1783, as the British prepared for evacuation, thousands of Black loyalists gathered at the docks. The Book of Negroes, a ledger of more than 3,000 documented Black exodus of North America. Many names in the ledger are from Long Island estates. For these individuals, liberty did not mean the American flag, it meant the ship to Nova Scotia. This is the largest mass emancipation in North America at that time, and it happened right here in our backyard. Then we look at institutions that were created. The African American Methodist Zion Church, the Freedom Church. We acknowledge the genius and autonomy of institutions created as resistance to such as the Black Church as a vital, enduring institution that serves as the bedrock for African American spiritual, social, and political life since slavery. It operates as a sanctuary fostering community, hope, and resilience while spearheading advocacy for civil rights, education, economic justice, and a safe haven, an independent institution. It has been central to the fight against oppression and for social progress. Eastville Community Historical Society and other African American sites on Long Island have focused on the struggle for rights, aligning African American reality with founding ideals from abolitionists or suffragists, and identifying the gaps between what was and what should be, focusing on the democratic resilience, moments where democracy was threatened and defended. It moves the conversation from abstract institutions to actual mechanics of citizen-led defense. Reassessing the founders, the lesser-known figures, women, enslaved people, indigenous leaders that centered the contribution to those marginalized by the traditional revolutionary narrative and honors that legacy. We are looking for a more perfect union, focusing on the evolution of equality, liberty, and consent over 250 years, recognizing that the union is a work in progress rather than a finished product, which is at a core theme of the American history. We will have a few programs throughout this year to uplift a few of these issues that you can find in our Long Island 250th Passport book. And this is a book that has been worked on with the Suffolk 250. I could pass it around, but you have to get your own copy. There are sites from all over Suffolk County that are in this book, including I think about 3 from the town of East Hampton. And so some of the things too that we want to focus on, we think that there are 4 signers for the Declaration of Independence, and we look at the William Floyd estate, which is where William Floyd was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, yet he was a largest enslaved holder in Brookhaven. So slavery was a family tradition for many of the founding fathers, and we must look at that and address that in many of the sites that include the burial ground is an example of where we can find such enslaved persons. And so for us, we have to understand that there is a paradox between the founding fathers and what freedom actually meant for all of the residents of our township. And so what Eastville has done so far, we have been working on uplifting these freedom seekers and enslaved persons and women who wanted to have their freedom as well. We had in the month of April, we had a book reading of Never Caught. It's all about Own a Judge, which was originally comes from Martha Washington's line. She was Martha Washington's bonded woman, because we all know that George Washington married up, if you didn't know that. And so it comes from her line. And so she was one of the persons enslaved, and she actually sought her freedom. And so this book, Never Caught, I'm encouraging you to read it. It's an amazing book. There's so many nuances about it, but we read it in April, and we will have a recurrence of seeing a reenactor of Own a Judge at our fish fry, which will be on July 25th It's always the fourth Saturday of every month, and so we will have a visit from Ona Judd. We also had a history and heritage tea that was very successful. Again, when we think about archaeology, and we have one of the largest archaeology collection on the East End because we inherited from the Stony Brook Archaeological School. And so, and looking at archaeology, a lot of the times traditionally, they would discard women's earthware. It's just junk, but it told another story. It told the story that these women were actually whispering on the pillows of their husbands for freedom and for justice. It showed different things that they now take in consideration. And so we were claiming our history and our time as women, people who were strategists at that time that weren't always thought about. We had our Brookhaven Town historian Barbara Russell come to give us an examples and bring artifacts of tea and tea sets from the early 1800s. And that was an amazing event. And we thank, of course, Hugh King came out to support and give us his support, and of course, our supervisor here. We thank you for that. We had some wonderful 250th cookies that were really nice, and I have a picture here, but you can't see that. And of course, everyone came out in their best to really understand tea, talking to one another, so it was just a great thing. And then we have coming up, which a lot of people come to, and I'm encouraging you to come to our third annual Juneteenth celebration, which will be at LTV. It's a great celebration. We have our keynote is the Honorable Fred Thiel. We'll have the band that we had last year, which is called Something Fresh. You want to be there. It's a great time. We are honoring community partners that uplift the community, and our theme this year is conveying community through culture, commemorating the unfinished revolution. And so I encourage you to come to that. And then again, I'm encouraging you to go to the Suffolk County 250th website, because on that website, it gives you access to this book that can be bought on Amazon, or you can do a free download for PDF. And every time you go to a site, you'll get a stamp. And so we have more than 200 committee members representing 1.5 million residents in Suffolk County. And this committee is also in partnership with the New York State Parks, the National Park Service, and Nassau County. And Suffolk County has sponsored events. If you missed it, I encourage you to take part in some of it. In April, we had a kickoff at Saginaw Coast Manor, which was very well attended. We had visits from George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, everyone dressed in costumes, from reenactors, from actually cooking stew on some big pots. Just an amazing time. And so we have July 3rd coming up for Suffolk County. They're doing a 200 and commemorating events at Bald Hill. There'll be a concert and fireworks. And then for July 4th, this is Suffolk County wide now, we will be teaming up with the Long Island Ducks for a baseball game. It'll be a special 250th theme, evening of Americans' favorite pastime and fireworks. And we'll watch George Washington throughout the first pitch, and be one of the first to come, one of the first 500 guests to get a free 250th passport book. And you can collect all of the 250th commemorative stamps when you visit these sites. August 15th, Suffolk County will have a historic maritime tradition anniversary of independence with a theme as the second annual Oyster Jamboree, and that will be, I believe, at the William Floyd area. And then on October 26th, join us for a special 250th Colonial Fair at the Manor of St. George. And this event will feature, of course, seafood chowder contests, colonial kiosks, tours of the historic manor, demonstrations, music, and exhibitions. And so I also want to mention that as a commissioner of New York State 250th, that our commission doesn't stop in 2027. It goes until 2033. we'll see how long we'll be around. But there are subsequent battles that we will uplift, including celebrating the 200th anniversary of the emancipation of slavery in this state, which was in 1827. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Georgette. Next, I'd like to invite up the Executive Director of the Montauk Historical Society, Mia Sertic. Welcome, Mia.
So
you got dressed up for us.
It's my everyday. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Pull that down a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting my colleagues here. It's really wonderful that we're all in the room together. We're talking about the plans for celebrating the 250th. What we're doing in Montauk, and it is a lot of this is because of the opportunity that the town of East Hampton has given us by doing that spectacular restoration of Second House, is that we are telling the story of revolutionary Montauk. Montauk was extremely important during the Revolution, not because we were occupied by the British, as East Hampton was, although they were anchored right within sight of our shore, but because we had all the livestock that has been referred to as having been so important to people's, first of all, just as a foodstuff, but also as a form of revenue. And after the Battle of Long Island, a lot of attention was turned to Montauk and to how to preserve the livestock and keep it from being stolen by the hungry, rapacious British. And so, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of personal records of that time. We have the trustees' records, so we know officially what was going on. We know who was living in Second House. But we do know a little bit about the history and a little bit about the sense of isolation that those people must have been feeling. And particularly because of all the violence that followed the Battle of Long Island, with houses being gone to and people being attacked, women being attacked. There had to have been an awful lot of fear among those people, knowing that Montauk was a target, a specific target, and that there were people very nearby who wanted to get their hands on our sheep and our cattle. So what we're doing at Second House is we're trying to recreate what the life was like for the people who were living there, for the keepers of Second House. And at that time, at the time of the Battle of Long Island and for the following year, it was Jacob Hand and his family, and he had 4 daughters, and 3 of them will be in the house this summer for you to meet. I borrowed clothes from one of them. And they're going to be talking about, they're going to be meeting people who visit. This is going to be an immersive, interactive, low-tech, very human exhibition, which we're going to have these 3 people inside who are living in 1776. There are no screens, there's nothing techie about it, but they're going to be doing their chores when you walk in. They'll be doing their mending, their needlework, their butter churning, their laundry, and there are also going to be interactive aspects in which people can help them make rag rugs, which will then stay on the floor in Second House. We'll be making candles, we'll be making corn husk dolls, and all along talking about the experience of what life was like in Montauk. I have 3 fantastic docents, one of whom is coming back for the 3rd time, obviously a glutton for punishment. She was involved in our Leisure-Rama exhibition, she was involved in running, and now she's really testing her historical knowledge with the Revolution. But so I'm really, really excited about this exhibition. It's going to be going on from June 18th until August 17th. And we'll be open Thursdays through Mondays from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock. But we will also have a lot of activities going on. We're kicking it off with the famous Hugh King, who's coming and doing a talk about Samson Occam. And I say a talk, it's actually going to be more like a revival meeting. We're going to be in a tent. We're going to be singing hymns. And we're going to be finding out about the very complicated and fascinating life of Samson Occam. Hugh's going to come back for a couple more talks during the summer. He's going to talk to us about Dayton's famous ruse. Did it happen? Did it not happen? We like to believe it did. And he's going to be talking about the Culloden. Obviously, we're going to talk about Samuel Buell, another really interesting character from the Revolution. Was he on our side? Was he on their side? They say that whoever had won the Revolutionary War, Samuel Buell would have been a winner. So that's kind of an interesting story. Anyway, that's what we're going to be doing. We will be having colonial cooking demonstrations. We've got this amazing woman who cooks for Ketchum Inn, for the historic Ketchum Inn, and she's going to come and do a talk called Remember the Ladies, Lice, Lard, and Lust. And she's going to tell the sort of gritty side of what it was like to be a camp follower during the Revolutionary War, when apparently everyone had lice, and they used lard for all sorts of different things. And the lust, I'll leave that up to her. But anyway, it promises to be a fantastic talk. We're hoping to have a little sheep shearing. My sister, Jessica James, who's the chair of the Second House Committee, is working on getting animals. She's also going to bring her own personal chickens, because after all, Second House was a farm. So we are looking forward to a very, very exciting summer, and we hope that everyone will come and see us. That's all I've got.
Great, thank you, Mia. Next, I'd like to invite up Mary Beth LaPena. Do you want to come up with Jackie Wilson and Deanna Takanen?
Nominated Deanna.
Okay, tag you're it, Deanna.
Speak for us.
Welcome, Deanna.
Thank you.
If you want to just pull the microphone down a little bit. Awesome.
Thank you for inviting us. Springs Historical Society is holding their annual Arts and Archives show on October 16, 17, and 18. And the archives portion of that show, we are featuring a map, typically the one that you showed before, the 1776 map. And we will have information and locations of our early settlers there. Also in October, the library will display photographs that we have in our collection. So I hope people will come and visit and see that. And we have suggested to the Heart of Springs, which has their annual Spring Fest on October 3rd, that they do something to recognize the 250th anniversary celebration. The Parsons Blacksmith Shop, we're thankful for everything you've done to help improve it and to keep it good. We've got lots of volunteers who have been there for a couple of summers now on weekends to open it. We thank James DeMartis and Mitch Yates, who come and act as our blacksmiths. Last Saturday was our first opening for the summer, and June 27th, the blacksmith shop will be open again from 10 to 1. So I hope everybody will come and watch those demonstrations. And we have future dates for the blacksmith shop to be open. So I hope you all come down and visit Springs and the historic district, which includes the blacksmith shop, the Parsons Anderson House, Ashwell Hall, and the Springs Church, and now the Dodge property. So thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Next, I'd like to invite up Hillary Osborne Malecki from the Wainscott Sewing Society. Welcome, Hillary.
We'll say the Wainscott what? It's a pleasure to be here. Founded in 1869, the Wainscott Sewing Society is one of the oldest women's organizations in New York State. Originally, our members gathered to sew clothes for children in New York City orphanages and to fund local civic projects like a new sidewalk or a cemetery fence. Today, our mission focuses on the care and upkeep of the Wainscott Chapel, a nonprofit community center on Wainscott Main Street that was established in 1908. Americans have been quilting since the early 1700s. Our Sewing Society quilters recently completed an impressive quilt. Each square highlights a piece of Wayne-Scott's heritage, showcasing our farming, fishing, and whaling history, our notable crops of strawberries and potatoes, and the beauty of the ocean meeting Georgia Pond. It also features iconic landmarks like the Osborne General Store, the Wayne-Scott Chapel, and the Wayne-Scott Windmill. The quilt will be on permanent display at the Wayne-Scott Chapel. Wayne-Scott's independent streak goes back to its early founding. In 1670, John Osborne, one of the first East Hampton settlers, left East Hampton in search of more room for his family and settled on the expansive plains surrounding the Wayne-Scott Pond, which is thankfully protected for all eternity. Residents once proudly called themselves Wayne-Scott dumplings. The nickname comes from an unfortunate cook whose dumplings were reportedly so tough they couldn't be chewed. The defiant, unyielding character of Wayne-Scott dumplings is evident in the stories of two women who refused to back down to British soldiers during the occupation of East Hampton. These accounts were preserved on a handwritten slip of paper found tucked inside an early 1900s diary belonging to Louisa Edwards Osborne. The first story involves Mercy Skellinger Osborne. Her husband, Zebedee Osborne, in 1775, signed the Revolutionary Association to show open support for the American quest for independence. Rather than live under hostile British military rule, he fled with his family to Connecticut as a refugee in 1776. Falling on hard times, he petitioned to return home 5 years later. One day, while riding from Poxabog to Wayne-Scott on horseback, Zebedee's wife Mercy was intercepted by a British soldier who demanded she identify herself. She looked him in the eye and defiantly declared, "I am the mother of Zebedee's children. I am attending to my own business, and you would do well to attend to yours." Stunned by her boldness, the soldier replied, "Go on, we don't want anything to do with you." By identifying herself as Zebedee's wife, Mercy was boldly announcing to an occupying army that she was a rebel. She was described as a resolute woman. The second story is about Amy Miller, believed to be Amy Mulford Miller, wife of Lieutenant John Miller of the Suffolk County Minutemen. Amy lived in a small house on a parcel known locally as the Bill Lot in Wayne-Scott. One afternoon, she discovered a British soldier standing inside her chicken coop, holding one of her roosters. Indignant, Amy grabbed an axe, marched up, and warned, "If another of you dares to step a foot in here, I'll split your brains out with an axe, I will." One soldier turned to the other and muttered, "She'd make a good soldier." Amy raised her axe higher and snapped, "Now none of your lip." These stories capture the fierce spirit of local women who use their wit and defiance to protect their homes and farms and prevent the British from plundering their livestock, crops, and wood piles. This year, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of American independence, the Wayne-Scott Sewing Society is honoring the past with traditions that keep our community connected. We invite you all to join us for our upcoming events: a Strawberry Festival on June 21st, a history talk titled Strange But True, Stories of Wayne-Scott's Past on August 1st, a community ice cream social on October 3rd, and a community potluck supper on November 13th. Attendance is open to anyone who shares an appreciation for this beautiful community by the sea. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. And lastly, we have the time capsule.
Sure. Just to tie this all up, the town of East Hampton will be installing a time capsule on town property. We will be contacting all the historical societies to participate in the time capsule. We will bury it on or about July 4th. So we'll be reaching out there then too, to be opened in 25 years on there. We look forward to that. And I think it's just another way in which we can encapsulate our history and bring it alive to the next generation. For myself, I thank the supervisor, I thank the town board members and everyone for these initiatives. And again, I think we thank everyone that helped make America as wonderful of a place to live, and specifically East Hampton. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you all.
So we're going to wrap up now. I know some of you have to get to work, so if you want to take off, now would be the time. I will ask if we wanted to get a photo of all of the historians and folks that were here today, John, so maybe you could follow them outside into the garden and get a photo. And we're very grateful that you shared, what your organizations and the historical societies are doing. And we would love to partner with you on our social media to help get the word out on your events.
I'd just like to thank David and Chelsea for all that work you did to put that together. And I will be at the Crow's Nest attempting to find out what the ruse is all about.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, so we are up to liaison reports.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. We'll start off, Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee will be meeting next Monday, 6:30 p.m. at the Amagansett School Library. Human Services, there'll be a resolution on Thursday. It's for an OATS program. This is for technology education, training of resources and services for adults age 60 and older, designed to promote social connection, health and wellness, and civic participation, economic security and creativity, and lifelong learning. We're introducing this program largely related to a lot of the cyber threats that people are seeing, both from the town and just people being targeted. So it's something that myself and the Director of Human Services have talked about, ways to just increase people's capabilities with technology and their overall security. Fire Marshal's Office, I just want to report that last weekend, that team did an amazing job. They conducted 233 late-night checks over the 3-day weekend for Memorial Weekend, which is incredible. The prior year, same weekend, we did 154. The difference here is just like we're fully staffed this year, and that's why we're able to get to that really high number. But huge thanks to those people for getting that done. Great project. Digitization. This came up in a prior discussion as to, look, the challenge of digitization. Reached out to some of the key players in the town for this, the IT head at the tax assessor's office as well. The challenge here is broader than just document scanning and involves staffing capacity, honestly. It records governance, data integration, and long-term operational sustainability. Right now, we have approximately 2,000 records within the assessor's office that remain undigitized. Staff are currently kind of managing their statutory assessment functions, deed-transfers, parcel inventory verification, and under existing staffing and space constraints. So the efforts are focused really right now on uploading new deeds and current documents into our paper vision system, while the additional assessor data entry work is being kind of compiled with 2024 records. We have previously looked at outsourcing efforts with our digitization. It's not really been successful, honestly. And, the thing that I think as a board we need to potentially consider for our 2027 budget is that, do we bring in a person to focus very much on digitization across the town, but be at a manager level, but someone who's going to take this project forward, because that backlog of data that needs to be digitized is huge. And as we go forward, we will need someone to help coordinate this. I think IT has taken on one person who's trying to support the assessor's office here, but it's a huge, huge project. So I think it's something that as we have those budget discussions for 27, we should absolutely be considering. Fire road access, we have completed the clearing on the Powermark path at Edwards Hall. We've taken down some hazard trees there and widened the path there. That's in relation to feedback we received from the East Hampton Fire District with concerns they have for access. We're continuing to work on our outreach to residents in that area as to whether we put in or reopen old fire roads or use the existing access roads there to improve access for fire risk in that area. We had a great meeting this week with Rise Life Services, who came out to visit potential locations where they could continue programs for individuals who have aged out of the school's special education programs. It's a huge problem in the town. We were very graciously hosted by the Windmill and St. Michael's locations to see if those spaces could potentially work. We also visited the CDCH building. Rise are going back to their executive board to see, what sort of program that they can offer out here. But we've had great outreach from a lot of families in the town as to the need of this program. and I'm very hopeful we can bring this forward. Business committee. We had a great business committee meeting. Thank you very much to Councilmember Rogers and Rich Normoyle who came to that meeting. We then had a follow-up meeting with Mike Forst and Mike Florio, who respectively represent different areas of the building industry on Long Island. And they kind of discussed with us a program that can allow certain new municipalities to create a professional certification program for building permits, allowing licensed architects or professional engineers to certify that project complies with uniform fire code protection and building code. This has previously been discussed. It's a bill that's right now in Albany that's under consideration. It's been introduced by Steve Stern and Senator Maria Martinez. Under the program, the concept here is that permit applications would be deemed approved within 45 days unless denied. Municipalities would be required to provide specific legal reasons for denials, and a random audit progress would be established to ensure compliance. Fire protection and life safety systems would remain subject to separate review, and municipalities would be prohibited from reducing permitting staff during a potential pilot period of this program. The program would sunset after 3 years. And would include disciplinary procedures and consequences for architects or engineers who negligently or wrongfully certify applications. So Kate and I were sent a copy of this bill. There was a prior version, as I said, of this. It was approved by, I think, 13 towns on Long Island. It's absolutely something, I think, as a board, we might want to consider supporting if this does progress in Albany, just as a way for us to mitigate some of the challenges we face within our building department. I will circulate to my other board members, but great thanks to Mike Forst and Mike Florio for introducing us to that program. Emergency preparedness. Committee is awaiting feedback on the winter storm review they provided. In the interim, there's been discussion about how we could introduce effective messaging to out-of-town visitors. I've got outreach to Southampton town. They've recently introduced a program, a messaging platform that they've adopted to allow temporary visitors to sign up for any emergency messaging. Also in discussion in our last meeting there was the upcoming US Open. You know, I'm sure residents are mostly aware of this, but operations for that will be kicking off on the 12th. That's when the merchandising center will be open, etc. Practice rounds will be beginning on the 15th, with the championship beginning on the 18th. The impact is going to be huge to traffic. They're expecting up to 25,000 people for the event. So just take note for any traffic and travel considerations you may have. And then lastly, from the Emergency Preparedness Committee, there was just some feedback on the recent pole fire at the airport. Just grave concern from the fire district, just the location of that pole with the 3 transformers on adjacent to the fuel farm, whether we could actually work with PSEG to either move that pole away from the fuel farm or bury it as a possibility. I did highlight to them that, you know, because the loss of power that occurred with that transformer, we are in the process of purchasing a generator for the airport, so we can always continue operations of that critical facility. That's everything.
Thanks, Tom. David?
The Montauk CAC met last night. We had a very healthy crowd there. We had discussions, and voluntarily, the applicant from 666 Montauk Highway came in and discussed the plans that he has approvals for, and just to address some of the rumors that might be in the community. I want to thank them and also thank the residents that came and holding the decorum and a good conversation. As far as the Ditch Plain Dune, the Ditch Plain Dune project is complete right now. The dune fence has gone in. The grass plugs are in. It's looking really nice, and actually seems like the sand is accreting. It slumped off a little bit as far as the recreational beach aspect of it, but the dune it seems like it's building back a little bit of the sand. So again, I want to thank Councilmember Rogers for moving that ahead and getting to this point. Let's see here.
I want to alert everyone in downtown Montauk, as I did yesterday also. We are working on beautification projects. Currently, right now, we have our sidewalk masons out there. They're going to be working on brickwork, trip hazards, and also extending the old repairing in kind and extending the sidewalks on Old Montauk Highway. Once again, that's part of the capital project that the supervisor put forward. Let's see here. Also this week we are starting, we will start a Montauk Playhouse roof replacement on there. That is a project that is about $1.1 million putting forward on there, a National Historical Registered building. Again, there will be minor inconveniences to the general public because of some of the staging, but it's extremely important to protect the infrastructure installation that we just did there of nearly $16 million on there. Let's see here. What else do I have for you on this one? At Star Island Dock, where the town of East Hampton just completed, about 2 years ago, a $2 million full dock restoration. We'll be doing some small dock repairs there also, in which there are some areas where there's been some drainage issues. So we're going to be continue to restore that location on there then too, and all the gear storage sites, and also the slip holders have been made aware of that then too. That goes back into the infrastructure project that we have at the Westlake Commercial Dock. That project, we are going out of sequence on there with because of the need of the dock to be used by the commercial fishing industry. We're going to be working on the outside T-dock going forward, but everything on the land side has been completed besides the asphalting on there. We also do some beautification projects there. That leads me into the two Army Corps of Engineers projects, the one about the Montauk FIMP project, which the supervisor moved forward the last couple of years. They have not completed the overpasses down by Merrim or Lone Steep Pipe. They're waiting for some specs to build a platform there. They're hoping to have that complete in the next 2 days. And it also goes back to the Montauk dredging project, Army Corps dredging project. They haven't deemed it complete. They took it down to 16.5 feet on there. The sand that was placed on the northwest side, just north of Gosman's on there, we'll be bringing a beach rake down there. Might have actually already happened last week. The beach rake will be going in to take up some hard material that might be there. I've also requested any residents, if they want to help assist with litter pickup there, as far as that, please do help out on that one then too. I also want to thank DEC Marine Resources Director Martin Gary. He's reached out, and we are going to be setting up a meeting with the FAC with the Marine Resources Director to come out here in the next couple of weeks. With that, that is currently all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Kate?
Yes, thank you, Kathy. First, I'd like to provide an update on the town's Sustainable Planning and Coastal Communities Project. Today, I have two resolutions on, one to establish the Project Advisory Committee, known as the PAC, and another to approve the amended contractor and subcontractor budgets, the rates, the MWBE, which is a Minority Women's Business Enterprise, and subcontractor overall budgets, which have remained the same. And with this approval, the prime contractor will be able to finalize their subcontractors and get started. As a reminder, this project is supported by a $600,000 grant from the New York State Department of State under the Local Waterfront Revitalization Program. The goal here is to develop a proactive, community-driven plan to support a resilient year-round Montauk that will balance economic vitality, environmental vision, coastal hazard mitigation, and long-term community needs, including housing and infrastructure capacity. Where we are right now, we have finalized contract negotiations with our selected consultants, which is James Lima Planning and Development. On May 8th, town staff met with the consultants and the Department of State to review the project and the next steps. One of our next major steps is the formation of the PAC. The town staff work with stakeholders to identify members of the community and individuals from local stakeholder groups to be selected to join the PAC. Individual invitation letters were sent out. and responses were received. The committee will play a central role in the project, including reviewing materials, providing local insight, and helping ensure that the planning process reflects both the expertise and priorities of the Montauk community. While the PAC will play a more involved role in the project, there will still be lots of opportunities for public engagement throughout the course of this project. Once the advisory committee is established, the town will convene a kickoff meeting with the constituents and the PAC. The first substantive task will be developing the public education and stakeholder engagement plans, which are critical for building trust, transparency, and community participation throughout the process. I look forward to keeping my fellow board members and the public updated as this project progresses. I also would like folks to know that the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum, which is located at 131 North Main Street, East Hampton, is having Flag Day at the farm. This will take place on June 13th. Admission is free. From 10:30 to 3:30, there will be craft gilding. Bring your old tired flags to be retired. Patriotic and flag-related crafts for the kids will be happening all day. Raffles, folk music provided by Joe Potter and Friends, and tours of the house and barns. Please come and join the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum for crafts, tours, and live music on June 13th. And that is all I have.
Great, thank you, Kate. Ian?
Yes, we'll have a property management committee here Wednesday tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. in this room from 4:30 to 5:30. That's open to the public as always. The Maidstone Park Playground was completed and very well used. Yeah, I want to give a special thanks to Judy Groden, Valerie King, Lauren Bolger, Bruce Engel, who were the committee members till the end. I know there were previous people who contributed, including Kate Rogers and Kathy Burke-Gonzalez. Nice to see that project finally completed, and I'm very pleased that it kind of looks like it has always been there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more, and there's been a lot of kids that I've seen using it. So,
So Ian, I just want to say thank you too, as not only someone that worked on that, but also as someone that lives in Springs and is up there, sees all the families enjoying it. It was, what I did was very preliminary. You brought that project home, and I just want to thank you for that. It's really important to the folks in Springs.
I know, because when my kids were little, we had to go to the village to go, you know, have our kids play in a playground, and now it's right here in our community. And so thank you.
Well, it was outside of my expertise for sure. So I don't want to take too much credit, but I'm happy to see it done, and I think it turned out great. So thanks to all involved. I just also wanted to lastly address the Springs parking lot. This came up again with a caller. Just to be clear, we don't have a plan for that. We had a concept, this is part of our capital plan. It's a concept, just lines on a paper. We just recently formally hired the engineer to do an actual plan. So what has been circulated was a concept only, not necessarily a final design. I have received a number of emails, both in support and with concerns about the design. I welcome those. I've encouraged everybody. I spoke with Biddle and encouraged him to call to talk to everybody if he had thoughts. So that process will continue, and there will certainly be work session discussions. That this isn't something that's on a track to being completed without more public input, more public information. Just to clear up a couple of things, that the area where it is proposed is not on preserved land. There is the Pussy's Pond Preserve there. The parking lot is very intentionally going to be on the library parking lot, which is not part of that preserve. Frankly, this wouldn't even be a conversation if we were talking about putting a parking lot in a preserve. There is a trail there. This will not be at all in conflict with that trail. The trail is outside of this area, and again, we wouldn't be putting a parking lot blocking an existing trail. It's also outside of the DEC jurisdiction and outside of the Natural Resources special permit. So ZBA, we intentionally made sure the parking lot could be set back far enough to not cause environmental concern. And that was all part of the preliminary planning to see if this was even a feasible project, which I determined, and with the help of Natural Resources and planning, that it is. But again, the details of that plan still need to be worked out. I do want to say one other thing about the size. I do think it's important when we build this parking lot that there's flow, so it's not a dead end where people pull in, and if it's full, there's no easy way to get out. We do need to have, legal aisle widths, and so it's hard to say just make it half the size because of the geometry of it. It just may or may not work. That said, I'm listening to all comments. We'll look at different options, and that will all be very, very public, both at town board work session or multiple, and at CAC meetings. So again, my door, phone, email, all open for all feedback on that. And that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Ian. So the East Hampton Sag Harbor CAC met last night. Unfortunately, I wasn't in attendance because I went to the Montauk CAC, but Becky Hansen, our town administrator, filled in for me, and I'll have that report next Tuesday. Early yesterday morning, I sent a letter to Governor Hochul about the Suffolk County hotel and motel tax revenue distribution and expressing our concerns regarding the proposed changes to the distribution of Suffolk County hotel and motel tax revenues, and to request consideration of several amendments that would better recognize the communities that generate these revenues and experience the impacts of tourism. This is timely because there's a bill in Albany that it could quite possibly be voted on before the end of the session, which could be in the next week or so. For context, East Hampton Town generated $6.43 million in hotel and motel tax revenue, and that represents 33.5% of the 19.24 million that is generated by the 10 participating towns. And despite the fact that we contribute roughly a third, we don't see that money come back to our community. So we've asked, I was in the letter, I asked for, actually, there were 4 asks. First, we wanted eligible uses of the Suffolk County Infrastructure Fund to be expanded to include coastal protection, flood mitigation, shoreline stabilization, coastal access roads, beaches, and related infrastructure that supports our tourism generating communities, because right now it's really the town's operating and capital budgets that support that. And with the influx that we see of tourism, we feel that we should be getting that money back in order to invest in that type of infrastructure. We also asked that the East End cultural funding be increased from $1 million to $2 million annually for the 5 East End towns. This is money that the Montauk Chamber uses to help support their programs. Third, we asked actually that the legislation provide a direct annual allocation of $250,000 to the Montauk Chamber of Commerce for tourism promotion, shoulder season marketing, and event production. And then lastly, an annual allocation of $250,000 to the Montauk Historical Society that owns and manages the Montauk White Lighthouse. So that went out very early yesterday morning, and we are, anxiously watching what's happening in Albany. I did speak to our Assemblyman Tommy John Schiavone twice yesterday, once last night. They were on break in the assembly. It was after 8 o'clock at night. He expected a long night there. So we're going to keep an eye on the Assembly and New York State Senate website to see if the actual bill is up there and has a number so that we can see what's being proposed. This Saturday, we have the Latino Advisory Committee. It meets at 8 a.m. in the morning at the Senior Center on Springs Fireplace Road. I also want to share with my colleagues, because I don't think I've had an opportunity to bring this forth, is that East Hampton has been selected to receive the 2026 Long Island Smart Growth Award from Vision Long Island for our affordable housing program. We are honored that Governor Hochul nominated East Hampton for this award, and this recognition reflects a larger body of work that the town has been advancing to create housing opportunities for our local families, workers, seniors, and young people. They're having a luncheon next week, and Patrick Durenz and myself myself will be attending on behalf of the town, and I've been asked when presented with the award to make remarks. So, yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I mean, I think, the governor is recognizing, that we became the first pro-housing community on Long Island. We were recently awarded the $7 million for Cantwell Court, the $3.17 million for the Route 114 project for wastewater infrastructure, and all the work that we've been doing legislatively to increase density for affordable housing so that we can, continue to invest in our community and keep our families here. So I'm grateful to the governor and to Vision Long Island, the East Hampton Housing Authority, and our Office of Housing and Community Development, and town staff, for supporting our affordable housing programs. Also, just want to remind folks, we have our job fair here this Saturday, June 6th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in this room, and we're going to have folks from a number of our departments on site, including Human Resources, the Police Department, Code Enforcement, Animal Control, Sanitation and Highway, as well as representatives from Suffolk County Civil Service for those folks in our community that live here and want to work here and build a career here. We're hoping they'll come on down on Saturday morning. And then I do want to say, happy Pride Month. This month, we're celebrating LGBTQIA+ neighbors and friends and coworkers. And I hope to see all of you at the parade on Saturday, 12 noon in East Hampton Village. And then lastly, to keep with the theme of today's work session, the Express News Group is doing a special insert for America's semi-quincentennial. I had gotten some information. I would love for us to take out a full page ad in their special section to promote the contest that David has put forward with the, going and looking at the markers. Challenge. So if everybody's good with that, the rate is about $2,400, and I would have a resolution on for Thursday. And that's what I have. So let us move on to resolutions.
Resolution 2026-908. This is to accept a proposal for services for L.K. McLean Associates. This is for professional services surveying at the property at 403 Abraham's Path, Amagansett.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 2026-909 is to appoint 2 additional members to the Business Committee. Be it resolved that Michael Forst and Alex Rossi are hereby added as members to the Business Committee for the calendar year 2026.
Second.
Discussion. I know Michael Forst is a builder. What his profession is Alex Rossi?
He is the owner operator of Springs Tavern.
Yeah.
Oh, right, exactly. Okay.
Great
terrific.
addition.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's my pleasure to offer Resolution 2026-910. This is authorize the Highway Department to move material to the Fred W. Field Recreational Facility.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
911 is authorized payment for prior year for a snow plow operator. And this is for Scott Ficcarelli. Hourly rate was $145 for a 3/4 ton truck, totaling $1,885.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 912, which is the establishment of the Project Advisory Committee for Sustainable Planning and Coastal Communities Restoration, Revitalization, and Risk Reduction.
Say that 3 times fast.
I can. I've said it so many times at this point. SPCC, that's how we do it. This establishes the scope of the work associated with the grant, requires the formation of a Project Advisory Committee to guide project development, assist with stakeholders' engagement, review deliverables, and support the town board in evaluating planning, resiliency, and coastal management strategies. Whereas the town board finds that establishing such a committee will ensure coordinated project oversight and inform public decision-making throughout the duration of the grant, and therefore be it resolved that the members will be reappointed annually through the expected project completion in late 2028, and committee composition will be
be adjusted at the discretion of the board. Resolved that the East Hampton Town Board hereby establishes the Sustainable Planning and Coastal Communities Project Advisory Committee, and initially to be comprised of the following members: Allison Branco, the Nature Conservancy; Andrew Harris, the Waterfront Advisory Committee; Ann Welker, Suffolk County Legislature; David Piacente, Montauk Chamber of Commerce; John Britton, property owner; Jennifer Iacono, Montauk Playhouse; Josh Odom, Montauk School Principal and Superintendent; Leo Daunt, Chamber of Commerce; Bob DeLuca, Group for the East End; Richard Silver, Concerned Citizens of Montauk; myself and David Lease as liaisons; Tina Lagaren as the Planning Director; Brian Frank, the Assistant Planning Director; Sarah Lewis, a Principal Planner; and Brittany Toledano, East Hampton Deputy Town Attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 913 is to amend Resolution 2026 324 to accept additional updated subcontractor costs for sustainable planning and coastal communities, restoration, revitalization, and risk reduction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 914 is the approval of East End Kiteboarding LLC seasonal special event permit for 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 915 is approval of Legend Surf Company seasonal special event permit for 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 916 is the approval of Loving Adventures LLC seasonal special event permit for 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 917, this is to amend Resolution 2026-879. And this resolution was the resolution dealing with the 114 project and the matching grant, and it's just to correct the fund line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 918, this is to authorize an inspection at 326 Accabonac Road. This home is in the town's home ownership program, and the Office of Housing and Community Development wishes to identify potential repairs and renovations, and has hired home inspections of the East End for their service in an amount not to exceed $945.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 919, this is to authorize an inspection at 5 Triworks Lane. This is also a home in the town's home ownership program where we wish to identify potential repairs and renovations, and have hired home inspections of the East End in an amount not to exceed $975.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 920, this is to increase the cap for Ed Reale for his legal services for the Office of Housing and Community Development. Raises the cap from $30,000 to $90,000 with an additional $45,000 to be taken from the CM fund line and $15,000 to be taken from the CH fund line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 921, this is to authorize emergency road repair at Harbor Boulevard.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 922, this is to adopt town code amendment for chapter, I'm sorry, no, let me start over. Resolution 922, this is to adopt Town Code Amendment, Chapter 182 of East Hampton Town Nature Preserves, to add the 2 properties to the list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 2026-923. It's a resolution to authorize between the Village of East Hampton and the Town of East Hampton for the waiver of Building Department, Planning Department, and associated fees, and this shall remain in effect through December 31st, 2028.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
924 is to amend the Fund Line Resolution 2026-647, bid number EH26004, rebuild engine on police dive vessel, and this is to correct the fund line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
925 is to accept proposal from LK McLean for the East Hampton Town Airport Terminal. This needs roofing and siding replacement, and this is in the amount of $51,300, and it comes out of the airport's outside professional line.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have 2026-926. This is to terminate a probationary employee. Second.
All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to go to an executive session to discuss litigation, personnel, contracts, and real estate.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Have a great day. Thank you, Jason.